Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Because I'm happy.
It's great. Thank you, Teresa. We get that out of the way. That's how we open up the show. It's great. Thank you so much. Actually, kind of fitting for today's show.
Yes, it is.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Me too.
I know we chatted end of last year, and I was still trying to figure out how did we connect, or how did you find us?
I come from a family of entrepreneurs and people in the trades. And so your podcast came up just like, as one of those suggested channels. My husband follows you as well.
Okay.
So
Is he in the trades?
Yes.
What's he do?
Heating and air conditioning.
Okay, so he's an HVAC guy.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah.
And my son's studying to do that too.
We just did a HVAC roundtable that we're going to drop next week. So that'll be an interesting show. We had 3 HVAC guys in here that have been in the business quite a bit. And it was a good conversation. I always like talking HVAC. I know a little bit about it. Let me share the information. You got a lot of information here because basically you've got a lot of titles. You've been doing this a while.
Yes, I have.
So basically, a TEDx speaker, educational technologies consultant, happiness expert, author,
Yes.
Educator.
Yes.
What else?
Editor of a luxury men's magazine.
Yeah.
International writer. I feel like there's still something else.
How big's the business
PhD
card?
student.
Sorry?
PhD student.
PhD student. Holy. And then, okay, so now we can find you. The website is TeresaGreco.ca. The email to reach you is StepstoTrueHappiness@gmail.com. You can also find you on Facebook under Steps to True Happiness. Instagram is at
Teresa
Steps to,
Greco. Yeah,
sorry?
Teresa Greco.
Teresa Greco, right?
_ Steps to Happiness.
_ Steps to Happiness. And then also on LinkedIn, Twitter under Teresa Greco, and then YouTube channel is under your name _ Steps to Happiness, right?
Yeah.
And then also you've got the Soulivity TV channel, right?
Yes.
And then you've got your show there, which is Steps to Happiness. And then you also have the Happy Hour channel where you've got Hopeful Radio there too.
Yes.
Like, you realize there's 7 days in a week, right?
It is. It totally is.
Oh, and I forgot TikTok. You're also on TikTok under
Yes.
@Teresa _ Greco.
Yes.
It's quite a bit. Let me do a quick shout out to Stott HVAC. I'm wearing their long sleeve tee. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. It was good to have you guys in the studio. Unleash your voice on the Construction Life podcast community. Are you passionate about the world of construction, trades, and all things building related? The Construction Life podcast wants to hear from you. Leave us a review, share your thoughts, insights, and experiences on your favorite podcast channel. Your review fuels our mission to create engaging and informative content for the construction community. Your feedback is the motor that holds our podcast together. Share your thoughts, rate us, and let the construction community know why The Construction Life is your go-to podcast. Visit our website and check out the nearly 500 tradespeople and construction professionals listed on the site. Connect with all of them. Check us out at www.theconstructionlife.com for additional content, behind-the-scenes exclusives, and valuable resources. Dive deeper into the construction world with articles, guest profiles, and more. Follow us on Instagram at TCL _ The Construction Life. Follow us on TikTok under the same handle, and tweet us at TCL Construction. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our link tree, and find exclusive discounts for listeners. Link is in the IG bio. Join the conversation on Facebook, the Construction Life community. And this show is going to be about, I like what you're doing, and I think it's important because there's a lot of tradespeople in the industry that are necessarily where they're fully able to be happy because they're punching the clock. And they're probably trying to survive and make ends meet and provide for their family and their loved ones. And I guess they get sucked into the whole whirlwind of life in general. And so I think their personal life always takes a backseat to their construction life. And that's why we've done this show, and that's why we continue doing the show. It's where it's a 50-50 kind of split. Sometimes I feel like it should be skewed heavier on the personal side. But a lot of tradespeople just commit so much to the construction life and almost, not voluntarily, ignore the personal life. So that's why you're in here. I really want to have this conversation about how we can look at happiness differently. And I'm sure you're going to shed quite a bit of light on it, right?
Yes, thank you so much.
Where do you want to begin, Teresa?
I think we should begin with talking about where the misconceptions about happiness exist, what they are, because we've been led to believe that happiness exists outside of ourselves, in our possessions, positions, titles, degrees, relationships, experiences, and appearance, where we say things like, I won't be happy until I buy that house. I won't be happy until I meet that perfect person. I won't be happy until...
We do that starting at what age? Like
very young.
Very young, right?
Because of the whole commercialism and marketing around, you need to buy this.
Yes.
And then you'll be happy. So many things are sold to us as that's where our happiness is going to be found. But we realize that once we acquire those things, that we're happy just for a little bit, and then we go back to feeling the way we felt before and are now looking for that next best thing to fill that void or give us that sense of happiness again. So whether we find it in experiences like at sporting events or concerts or networking or out with friends or all these different things, that during the pandemic, I think if it was really highlighted, that how do you expect me to be happy when I'm locked in my house and I can't hang out with friends and I can't go to restaurants and I can't travel and all the places that people place their happiness. But the truth is that happiness is not found external to us at all. I believe that happiness is our essential nature, that our original self is happiness. And what I mean by that is that we see this innately in children, that they are happy, at peace, and loving innately. They are that. But then around the age of 6, it's like literally like the world gets its claws into us and then has us feeling a whole bunch of other things about ourselves, about life, about the world, about who we can be or what we can become. And so then we start to lose ourselves in this external world, and we buy into all the conditioning and programming around, happiness is found in all of these areas.
Has anyone ever proven that buying all these things and accomplishing all these things is going to make you happy?
So there's a lot of research out there. This is where my dissertation on happiness comes in the sense that I'm looking at all the science behind, first where happiness is not, and then where it's been proven to be found.
Okay.
And so it's not found in money and in the things that money can buy. And that's, I would say, the most popular one that we get lost in, right? That a lot of people are looking to, like, why do you want the extra $100,000? Why do you want the big house? Why do you want the 3 cars in the driveway? Why do you want those things? And at the, like, when you keep drilling down, why is it? Well, I just want to be happy. It's like, do you know that you don't have to have 3 cars and a huge house and all these luxury things? Because research has shown that we have more of these things than ever before. We have access to more information than ever before. But then, yes, statistically, we're not any happier, if anything, less happy than people were in the 1940s.
They had far less.
They had less gadgets. They didn't have all the appliances and conveniences that we have. And yet when they rated their happiness level, it was like 7.8. And we're rating ours now at like 7.5. So it's even slightly below, although we have, as I said, access to many more things, more stuff. Thinking it'll make us happier.
But is that, like, do we do this on purpose where it's like the dopamine hits? Is it that we're doing this to, I'm feeling a little down, so I'm going to go out and either spend an evening out and pay for it, or go out and purchase something for myself or for somebody else. And so it's like I'm constantly kind of replenish the well and thinking that that's how it's going to be done, but it's not being done that way, because as soon as you do it, it goes away as quickly.
That's exactly it. That
So
we do. We
happens.
buy those things, like that designer handbag or that sports car, whatever, and then we're happy for just a little bit, and then we go back to feeling the way we felt before. And that's called hedonic adaptation, which is it's a scientific term, and it's how we feel, that we feel good for a little bit, but then we go back to feeling the way we did. And I was
do it
on
again.
Because that's where we think we're going to find it, right?
Yeah.
We're conditioned and programmed to think that's where it is, because there's so much marketing around it. Like all the huge organizations and businesses are all counting on that, right? That they can sell us that new iPhone or whatever that new best toy is out there. We need that. We totally need that because because it's going to somehow make us happier or more cool, give us more friends, all of those things that we're looking for. But the truth is, everything we're ever looking for outside of ourselves already exists within us. We just don't spend time connecting and with that part of ourselves. We're so caught up, again, in the external, in our personality, in our identity, and not spending enough time like going inward and really connecting with the inside of ourselves.
Can we, I'd love for you to share at what age children start to make that shift from they're just pure happiness, almost like just being outside or just stepping on grass is just happiness to them. And I'm going to also include puppies into that and dogs into that because they have that same mindset where it's like, you know, there's the classic cliche where it's like they don't need fancy things to be happy and be in love with you and care for you and want to be with you, right? At what age I'm assuming with technology and the way things are going society-wise, that age is getting earlier and earlier, because they're being introduced to so many. So one of the saddest things that I saw probably last year was a bunch of kids being interviewed and asking them what they want to achieve and what they want to inspire to be or get. And a lot of the kids were listing things like objects to buy that would make them happy. And it was very heart-wrenching to see that, because you had kids in other parts of the world that weren't even putting that on the list. They were just looking at like being with family, being with loved ones, being with friends. It wasn't possessive things. It was just emotions that were connected to their happiness. So why are we getting younger and being such a slave to these objects? And then at what age as an adult do you start to flip the script and start realizing none of those things are making me happy?
So I would say it starts as early as 6, that prior to that, we're very self-absorbed as children, right? We're just into ourselves and we really don't have a conception of how other people see us till about that age. So before that, you know, we're fine playing on our own. But at around that age is when all of a sudden it's like, oh, now people start saying things to us and we start to recognize that people have an opinion about us. And that's all based on like the outside. And then we then want to start being liked and loved and accepted by other people because we understand that there is this kind of external part of ourselves. So that's to answer that question. I believe on the flip side, it's around the age of 40 that now, so for me, that's what exactly that it was. It was the milestone of turning 40 that had me taking a step back and reevaluating my life. That, you know, my life looked pretty perfect on the outside. I had checked off all the boxes that society, family, culture, religion told me I needed to have a happy life. So fulfilling career, beautiful, healthy family, our own home, cars in the driveway, vacations a year, lots of beautiful material things. And so if my life, as I said, looks perfect and checks off all the boxes, how is it that I still feel unhappy and unfulfilled? It doesn't make sense. And it's at that point where we've now been working for a while, right? We've achieved a certain level of success at work or in our businesses. We've accumulated things now, relationships, all of those things, all those areas that I pointed out that we acquire and achieve and earn and all those things. And then but yet we're still feeling like something's missing. There's some kind of void that it doesn't matter how much more you buy. It's just like, I just always feel like there's still something missing. It doesn't matter how much more I earn. I still feel like something's missing. Then we think, well, maybe if I buy this, maybe then I'll feel like it. Or maybe if I get a relationship on the side, then maybe I'll feel like it. And people, again, we're always thinking, if maybe I do this, I'll be able to fill that void. But I think it is that turning point moment that it's those crossroads. And for me, it was the milestone, the 40th birthday milestone. But for sometimes it's illness, sometimes it's a death, sometimes it's loss, sometimes it's an accident. It's like different things that seem to happen all around like that age. That I get a lot of people that said, it's so weird. I don't know what it is about 40, but I'm, thinking and having some of the same feelings as you. And I'm like, it's almost like we've lived half our life at that point, right? And if we have to analyze, for me, it was, can I imagine living the same life for the next half of my life? Do I want it to be the same way?
That's what I was just going to say, is that we're starting the point of getting further away from our childhood happiness, and we're getting closer to our end of life. And then we start questioning, do I want to be with this person doing this for the next whatever amount of years it's going to be? If you are going to live that long, if you are having a midlife crisis or what have you, or if something dramatic happens, you're like thinking, no, I don't want to be in this situation. So attention HVAC dealers, CMPX is around the corner, and Redmond Distributing has an exciting event planned for you. Join us at The Pint, conveniently located attached to the Convention Center on Thursday, March 21st, from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Tickets are free and available for all HVAC dealers, installers, and techs. Meet their dynamic team, enjoy food and beverages, network, discover their new products, win prizes, and enjoy the entertainment. It's going to be an event you won't want to miss. Head over to their Instagram bio at Redmond Distributing to reserve your tickets. How do we get people to understand that there is no void? Like, there shouldn't be a void. I'm assuming there shouldn't be.
The void is a couple things. One, I realized that the void that I was feeling, the something missing that I couldn't feel, was one, I was not connected to my inner being versus my outer being. So what I mean by that is like our spiritual self, right? That we talk about mind and body a lot, mental health and maybe our emotional self too. But we don't talk about our spiritual self all that much. And that's, for me, the infinite, eternal part of us, the part that once I die one day, it's going, it'll continue to live on and go wherever it needs to go. I believe it's like the energetic part of us. It's the part of us that has been in this body this entire time, even though the body continues to change. So the energy that's like looking out of these eyes that has been in this body since when I was 5, when I was 10, when I was 15, when I was 25, all of that part of me still is always there, even though the outside continues to look different. Yeah. And so we neglect that part because it's, maybe it's weird, it's woo-woo. Maybe we connect with it at church, maybe. But that part of ourselves is our inner being instead of the outer one. And so it's important for us to also spend time like on our own and connecting with that part of ourselves. So I was disconnected from that, even though I grew up Catholic and went to church, but I feel like they kept God outside of me instead of God within me, and just disconnected from my spiritual self. And so there's so much love, peace, and happiness in that part of ourselves. And so when we're not connected to it is where we can feel like something is missing, because it's like a part of us is missing. We're not connected to that part. And we can connect to it with practices like meditation, through prayer, through journaling, walks in nature, essentially doing the things that really bring us joy. When we're participating in those things, we're connected. We're tapped in. We're in the flow. That's what science calls it. We're in the flow. We know when we're connected because it feels so good. It's like time doesn't exist. We could spend hours doing it, and we always feel so energetic when we're doing it. We're so present and in the moment when we're doing these things. And so it's important for us to recognize that the happiness that we're feeling is not attributed to what we're participating in. Those activities are just a vehicle that's helping us to connect with a part of us that is always happy. But oftentimes we don't leave very much time within our week or our schedule to connect to that place of happiness inside of us.
We don't leave any.
Right?
And if you want to talk about specifically tradespeople, we don't leave any at all. And to sit down and speak to tradespeople and tell them about these opportunities for seeking happiness or seeking within, they're going to have a hard time because they're probably looking at a massive whiteboard and just, I've got all this going on right now. I've got these expenses coming up. I've got these deliverables to take care of. How do I have time for happiness? It's challenging at that point, right? There's lots of tradespeople that they just bury themselves in the work.
Yeah.
And that's a substitute now. So you start fighting the substitute of what they think is truly going to make them happy, because they'll probably, I guess, go back to their earlier days of constructing where they were happy. They were building a business, they were building a brand, building relationships, and they recall that I was happy then. So why don't I just go back to keep on doing that? But that's not the right way to solve it. Right. And I'm trying to figure out, you definitely should know this, is who's more happier, men or women, and who's not happy at a certain age. I'm just assuming that there's probably more women not happy when they get to that mark in their life, whether it's 30 or 40 or whatever it is, because I think men are probably bottling it up and disguising it. More so women are confronting it. Am I wrong?
To be honest, I haven't encountered any research around happiness in regards to sex. I've seen it based on different countries, age groups, but I haven't encountered any that. And so now you're like piquing my interest, because I'm
just curious.
And I'm curious to I wonder what that would be. Because to be honest, I haven't come across any research that's been like, it's more for females or for males. But
my thought process for that was, men want to provide. So then when they're building a business or they're working in construction, they're providing for their significant other, for their family. So then they're working a hard day's work, and they want to bring that provide to home. And that's what makes them happy. So as long as their family's happy, they're happy. Versus, I think women will start to look internally. And that's why you probably start seeing more women around that age group, is probably the same time that they start talking about separation and divorces, and because they want to be happy, and they're not going to be happy in this marriage any longer. So then they make that decision to get out of the marriage, which will make them happy, so to speak.
Yeah, that's what they think.
That's what they think.
Exactly. Because it's all an inside job. It has nothing to do with outside of ourselves, where we say, if only you were different. If only you did more of this, then I'd be happy. If only. And it has nothing to do with the outside person at all. It has, and I know this from my own personal story, that I also was not happy, and our relationship was not in a great place too. And I thought it was because, he worked long hours. He was also providing for our family. And I was doing the thing at home with the kids and taking care of the house, and still going to school and working and doing all of those things. But when I realized that when I started spiraling down, so this was really when my happiness story started over 10 years ago, when I was in the low point of my life, is that when I decided to make changes, I didn't tell anyone outside of myself to be different. Although I had problems with different relationships in my life, I didn't tell anyone else to be different. All I did was work on myself. And I still feel like it's magical that all of a sudden the outside world started to reflect what was happening on the inside. So when our world is chaotic on the outside, it's because it's chaotic within ourselves. And when things are happy and at peace within ourselves, it is like almost magically happy and at peace outside of us. Yep. So the outside is only ever a reflection of what's happening inside. And so as I said, it's like magically all of a sudden all the relationships I had problems with, I had no problems anymore. I'm like, that doesn't make any freaking sense. But it's because I was working on myself, and I was doing that on my own and in private, that people didn't know. And that's why my brand is now called the Steps to Happiness. And it's very much about giving people the steps that they need to help themselves. That sometimes we are going through somewhat difficult things, and things that we don't want to share with other people, our skeletons or our trauma, all of those things. And I think that we're not taught these tools about how do we handle and get through the stuff that's hard. And so that is where, over the 10 years, I worked on myself, and various practices and methodologies and tools that kept coming my way. And I'm like, oh, what's this about? And then it would bring up some kind of hardship and pain, and then I would work through it and then continue to get to a better place. Happiness is work, in the sense, and I'm going to say that because I almost don't even like the word work. I like the word effort better, because if we're not feeling happy, is how much time do you want to spend dedicating yourself to that? And as we were saying, that if you're working 60 to 80 hours a week, it doesn't leave you very much time to connect with your place of happiness. And so when you get to the end of the week and you're like, my life sucks. Yeah, it does. Because how much time did you connect to your place of happiness? Now, if we can find that happiness through our work and through the activities that we're doing, then it doesn't feel so bad, right? So a lot of the work that I do, even though it's a lot, I get so much joy from it. And that's what I think is important, is for us to really ask ourselves, why are we doing the work? So as you said, a lot of men are working to provide for their family because it brings them so much joy that they can like send their kids to university or be able to like buy their kid a car that they couldn't have, or that, and when, your kids come around and they're so thankful and grateful for what your hard work is providing for them, that does mean a lot, right? So it's really knowing about why are you doing what you're doing. And if there are no good reasons for it, then maybe you should think about not letting it go and doing something else, because if there's no good reason behind it, there's no important why behind what you're doing, then really we shouldn't be doing it.
How did you deal with the resistance? Because I can only assume that you're going to get some resistance from some friendships and some relationships that you have, whether it be family or friends. Mm-hmm. They're going to be probably questioning you, what's going on, Teresa? Like, why are you different? Why are you not wanting to do this and do that? And why are you focusing just on yourself? Are you being selfish? Like, I'm assuming people would come out of the woodwork that way and start speaking to you that way, or talking to you, like discussing things like that. Is that not what's going to happen?
I think when we decide to make changes, those that are closest to us know us to be a particular way. But when we are taking steps to better ourselves and our lives, we may have to create boundaries between us and the things that maybe are preventing us moving forward in that direction. So family is such an interesting thing, because you think they should be the people that should be supporting you the most. And it's often not. That even for me, my support system has come from people outside of myself, but that in the sense that they share common interests that I do. Where the people closest to me, when I first started doing some of these things like meditation, where now, it's such a buzzword and I'm happy for that, but it was like, Teresa, you're part of a cult. This is weird. Like, you need to stop what you're doing. And it's like, okay, obviously I can't talk to you about it because you don't get it. So, but when we can find those people that are maybe trying to walk on the same path that we're trying to walk, like let's say it's just fitness, right? We're trying to get healthier. If we go home and we have family members sabotaging the fact that we're trying to eat healthier and they're bringing home all these sweets and things like that, that's not great. Or, oh, you don't have to go to the gym. It's okay. Don't worry. Just do this or whatever. That's all sabotage, right? So we may have to stand up for ourselves and say, no, this is a choice that I'm making. And then with time, people adapt, right? And then when they start to see the positive changes that are coming out of what's going on, then they come around.
They eventually come around? Mm-hmm. But are you also at a point where, and I this is how I've seen it, me being in my early 50s, is that you just lose friendships. Mm-hmm. You just lose relationships. Mm-hmm. It's just like you're going down one place, they're going another place. They don't really care about you. You try to make an effort, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, the hell with that. And then you move on. Then before you know it, it becomes a month that you haven't spoken to them. It becomes 6 months. It becomes a year at that point. Then you're like, I haven't really spoken to that person in years now. So I guess that person's no longer in my life now. They really don't care what is becoming of me, and vice versa. Yeah. So our circle becomes smaller.
Yes, it does. And I feel like mine continues to get smaller because I'm not so concerned about having lots of friends like we did when we were younger, right? That when you become more secure in yourself, that you don't need all of this external validation from other people too. And I also don't have time to hang out with people who don't really like me and who don't really value me and my presence and my time. That if they could take it or leave it, then I'm like, I'd rather do something that's more around self-care, that's like helping me and my happiness, than me spending time with someone who really doesn't even value the fact that I'm there with them. And I also want to surround myself with people who I enjoy their company, that they're inspiring, they're uplifting, they're empowering, instead of those negative people that are like a black cloud, and every time you hang out with them, you end up feeling worse about yourself and your life. Those are not people that you want to be surrounding yourself with, even though you've known them for a long time. So unfortunately, I ended up losing my best friend that I've known since like grade 6 during the pandemic, because we had different viewpoints, and then she exchanged some other words with me that made me realize that we are in two different places in our lives. And there's no point just holding on to that relationship just because we've known each other for a long time, but we're not in alignment right now with how we're living our life. And so that's where those boundaries come in. Sometimes we do have to hang out with certain people, family, right? But we can limit how much time we spend with them, because we realize that when we hang out with them, we don't feel good. Yeah. Or we let relationships go completely because they're really not serving us anymore. And that's okay, because then it opens ourselves up to be able to find other people that we'll now encounter wherever we are on our path. It's kind of like a train, right? Where people are coming in and off our train as we're moving through life. So, like that saying, that someone for like a day, a week, a month, a year, something like that, right? So they're like on our train for like a short amount of time, and then they're off. And then there could be some that are on the train like our entire lives that we ride with. So,
are you looking for a sustainable and durable real wood solution to elevate your next project? Let me introduce you to the gold standard. Thermery, the world's largest and most trusted manufacturer of thermally modified wood and sauna materials. Their wood is like the superhero version of regular wood, stronger, more stable, and ready to take on whatever Mother Nature throws its way. With a wide range of thermally modified wood products, from decking and cladding to sauna and statement walls, when you choose Thermery, you're not just investing in quality, you're investing in the health of our planet too. Join countless architects, designers, builders, and homeowners who have trusted Thermery to bring their vision to life. The best way to fully experience the Thermery difference is to hold the real thing in your hands. So visit their website today at www.thermeryusa.com, and also find them on IG at ThermeryUSA. But I find that a lot of people these days, I don't think this was really about the pandemic and differences of opinion or something like that. I think it's just these days I find people are so quick to just dismiss a friendship and a relationship and move on, because they're not getting what they think they want out of it. But it goes back to your earlier point, talking about how we're so obsessed with just buying that shiny new whatever it is, because it's going to make us feel happy. But if that relationship, friendship is not giving us any kind of feeling of happiness, we're really quick to just move on. And I can only assume in today's day and age, because I'm sure you know a lot of this, the stats behind relationships in general, they're almost like a revolving door these days. Like the younger generation doesn't even know what dating is. Like that, they don't know what's connecting or what's anything. They just, the moment there's not even a red flag, like a red handkerchief, they'll just like, I'm out of here, I'm gone, and I'll go meet somebody else because I'm pretty sure somebody else is around the corner. Well, sure it is in your 20s and your 30s, easily at that. But I think there's also stats about how more men, as they get older, they have far fewer people that they can relate to, connect with, speak with. And so you're seeing a whole generation of men being alone. If that's what they want, great. If that's giving them happiness, great. I don't think it is. But you're also seeing that whole uptick about women having no family or no children later on in life because they've been geared towards success and being that successful person in a business, in an industry. And then they've put aside having a family and going down that whole road. So now you're getting, I think it's the first time in history where women now are going to have no kids. There's going to be fewer people not married, not women married at a certain age now. So it's like the landscape's completely changed. It starts to make me wonder, is society just going to be a society full of lonely people not willing to connect or not willing to put their guard down to speak to somebody else? Is that where we're headed, Teresa?
So statistically, it's around 50%, actually, that the pandemic actually highlighted the pandemic of loneliness that existed even before the pandemic was there. And then the fact that then we were stuck in our homes and we couldn't get out, it just made things worse. But there was some research around the hardest hit, the hardest sector of the population that was already suffering before was like young adults. So like older teens and the university students that were already feeling very lonely before.
Technology kind of disconnected them?
I don't doubt that that's part of where the loneliness comes from, but where people feel like they're not being seen, not being heard. So it is around 50%. And so one of the longest studies out there of 75 years determined that one of the greatest predictors of happiness is the quality of our relationships. So social connection is one of the things that happy people do. So knowing the things that happy people do can help you to be happier. That happy people have habits that other people don't have. And so knowing what those habits are and adopting those habits can help you to be happier. And social connection is one of those habits. So isolating ourselves and thinking, oh yeah, it's fine, or maybe connecting with people, anonymously over the internet is not really quality social connection. And so we can get our social connection in a variety of different places, though, right? It doesn't just have to be with connecting with old friends. We can do that, by maybe being part of sports teams or certain clubs or different venues where you have like a network of people at work. If you have a network of people that you enjoy, so you can fill that bucket, let's say, of social connection in a variety of different ways. Do you have to push yourself? Yeah, because sometimes you are tired, right? As we're saying, you work 60 to 80 hours. You are sometimes tired. But if you're not feeling happy is where you have to think, okay, what kind of things have I not been participating in that I know bring me joy? And social connection is one of those pieces that if you haven't been out with like your family or friends or whatever that could be, whatever network you have, you need to push yourself to go. So when like your work has some kind of like fun thing to do after work, you should go. And when you go and now you're out of your home and you're not at work and you're doing something fun, usually we start to like perk up and lighten up. So you're right. Social connection is an important part. And I think it's just making sure whatever network of people you're connecting with are ones that make you feel good about yourself and your life when you're there.
So let me, when I was younger, I was a very introverted kid in school, right? So I was very quiet, left to myself, right? But I made my circle of friends, no problem, right? We connected for whatever reason. Like, as you said earlier, like when you're a kid, you like hockey cards? Great. You're my best friend now. That kind of mentality. It could have been the most trivial thing ever. Then as you get into your 20s, you find it very easy to communicate and you just speak to strangers. So it could either be a compliment or something like that, or you're just... I used to do this all the time, and I occasionally do this once in a while. I still go to the LCBO, which is, for people who are not listening to it in Ontario, is the beer store, basically, the liquor store. And I will still pull out my driver's license to show ID, right? I'm well past the age of approval, right? And it would evoke a kind of a smirk out of the person who's ever cashing me out, right? I find lately in the last 5 years, the moment you try to do something of humor, people are on guard now, and they'll give you an expression like they think you want to say something negatively or harm them, and they're expressing this physically because everyone does this. It's human nature. Once something happens, your body tells you what to think before you even think it. So when I try some of those little scenarios, there's a defensive mechanism kicked in. So it's like they're not interested in communicating. They're not interested in connecting or talking or doing anything like that. They're interested in having their head down and just move on with life. And that's where I'm having a challenge where it's like that 50% is going to grow. I don't know how it's not going to grow because people really truly don't want to connect to try to be happy. So they rather just stay on their own. So then they're going to be alone with themselves and get a cat, get a dog, get whatever they want, or maybe stay online and create those or foster those digital relationships, which I 100% agree with you. That's not connecting at all. whether it's DMing on a social platform or being on a dating service, that's not connection. Connection is actually sitting down and speaking to someone right in front of you. But in today's society, you're being blocked by what they think your motive is to even speak to you. That's a challenge.
So when you know that half of the population is lonely, what as a coach, we encourage our clients to then push themselves out of their comfort zone to try to make those connections. When you know half of people are also looking for a connection, right? So if you go into a room and you know the other people in that room are also trying to make friends and you're trying to make friends, people are open to making friends, right? So there are different, like even services and places that you can go and meet with people who I can't think of. They're like meetup groups, right?
Okay.
So, and they have different themed meetup groups. So it's a hiking group or a music group or whatever. They're kind of around like certain interests. So, you know, if you go to those places, you show up by yourself. There's usually other people that are there by themselves too, but you share that common interest in whatever the group is. So there are places that you can go. And when you know other people want to make friends too, I just feel like you just have to keep it in your mind. Well, okay, I'm looking for a friend, and there are other people here that are also 50% of the population is looking for a friend. I think also what you're experiencing, as you said, at the liquor store is because know that most people are not in a good place. They are not happy, and it's almost so unusual to get somebody to come and all of a sudden be this light. So you there trying to bring a smile or a bit of a giggle with what you're doing. It's that's catching them off guard. It's not that they're not open to it, but they're like, what the heck? Like this never happens because most people are just so like their blinders on. And I make it such a point that when if I'm, with the cashier or wherever I am, it's about like looking them in the eye and like, hey, like, how are you? And just just literally stop for a minute because you're just like all caught up in your work because most people are just hurriedly going from like one place to the next. And it is so unusual for them to encounter somebody that's like, hey, like, how are you doing today? Like in a really like earnest way. And so I'll get that all the time. They're just like, and I'm like, so, like, how are you? Like, how's your day been going? And they're just like, oh, wow. It's almost like, who are you? Because this is not the norm. The norm is
like,
people are miserable. No, not so much like that because it's like on the phone.
That's how they
on
think.
The phone, it'll be like that. Where
really?
I'll be like, hey, how are you? And they'll be like, and I'm like, oh, hi, it's Teresa Greco, whatever. And like, we organize. Okay. But right away people are, because that's also part of our conditioning because of other stuff that's going on. But I never interpret people's just kind of hurriedness when we encounter them at the grocery store or wherever we're meeting people. I know that I'm different like that, and that I am embodying happiness like in all aspects of myself. So when I meet somebody and I'm like glowing and I'm happy and I'm cheerful, it almost feels like me like sprinkling fairy dust on like everywhere that I go, and people are like, oh my God, I feel so much better now that I've talked to you or that I've had like a brief time with me, because it's not the usual. So I encourage you to continue to bring that like side of yourself, not thinking that people are like think you're weird or that you want something from them. It's because it's not the norm. The norm is most people are not like that. And so sometimes I get into a bit of a funk thinking like, well, maybe I should just be like everybody else. Like, what the heck,
of course
right?
That comes up, yeah.
But then I can't, right? So now going back,
because it's going to affect you.
Yes. So going back to like that void, that's something missing. The other part that was missing was my true and authentic self. So many of us are wearing masks, right? Where it's like, hey, how you doing? Oh yeah, I'm fine. Meanwhile, on the inside, things are not fine, right? But we wear these masks. We show up as who we need to be wherever we are. So, who I need to be as a husband, as a brother, as an employee, all the different, same thing for me, who I needed to be the perfect wife, perfect daughter-in-law, perfect employee, perfect friend, whatever. And then part of it was how did I get to 40 and not know who I was? Because I was so caught up in trying to look for that love, that acceptance. I wanted people to like me. So I was wearing those masks, trying to show up as I thought I needed to show up. But the truth was, I was not showing up as who I really was. And I think that that's also at the core of how many of us are living. We're not showing up authentically. We're showing up as like who we think that we needed to be, whether it's like our parents want us to be a certain way, or we think, oh, that's what it means to be a good dad. That's what it means to be a good husband. That's what it means. What it means really is, what does it mean for you? How do you really want to show up? And with a lot of my clients, it's that they've been caught up in their responsibilities and saying, you know what, like I really used to love playing the guitar and I never get a chance to do that anymore. Or I really loved like playing with, those remote control cars. And it's like making time to connect with some of those things that maybe when you had more time in your youth that really brought you joy, is integrating some more of those things. So I call that like your happiness toolkit. So just like you guys have a toolkit of tools, it's a toolkit of things that bring you joy, that you know that you can turn to those things in however amount of time you have. Whether it's like, for me, going for a walk in nature is one of those things. Whether I have half an hour or I have an hour, if I'm lucky, going outside makes me feel so good. So when you do, like, let's say you have to go walk the dog. When you're outside, be present. Don't be walking your dog and then thinking about, oh, I have to call Charlie later and then I have to like do this and I have to do that. And it's like, now you're defeating the purpose of giving yourself like a half an hour break or an hour, however long you're out, doing whatever you're doing, and not being present. Happiness is found in the present moment, but either we're thinking about our problems, and that's just because of how the brain operates. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 95% of those thoughts are the same as yesterday. So our brain just recycles the same BS. And I say BS because if they're not happy thoughts, then it's a lot of BS. So stuff from the past, right? Our regrets, our mistakes, things that we wish were different, maybe some shame and guilt that we have flowed in, right? Then we have the future tripping that we do too, that, oh yeah, we have to do this, and oh no, what about that? And if it doesn't work out, and now we're being pulled away in the other direction. So it's important that when we are participating in the happiness toolkit, whether we're at a concert or sporting events or having a drink with our friends or whatever, be really present. Don't be on your cell phone. Don't be watching TV. Don't be like even there thinking about other things. If you're going to make time to do something that brings you joy, be really in the moment and appreciate the half an hour, the hour, whatever it is that you're giving yourself. That is going to fill you. It's like a bucket that it doesn't matter the more time, obviously, the better. But when we don't have a lot of time, it's about really being there and tuning in to how good you feel for the little bit of time that you're providing yourself with. And know what those things are. What does bring you joy? Is it playing with your kids? Is it talking to like a friend that always makes you laugh? Is it certain songs that you listen to that make you like feel so freaking good when you listen to them? It's what are those things for you? And I'll get people that said, well, I don't know what those things are, because again, they've lost themselves. So at that point, it's what kind of things really brought you joy when you were younger? Was it playing hockey or baseball, and maybe you can't play that because you're older, but maybe it's just watching it would still bring you joy, or bringing your grandkid to his baseball game would bring you joy, like whatever those things are. But it's like, be present. That is really the key. Don't be giving yourself like an hour at the gym, but then there you are thinking
your
about,
mind's rattling.
No, be present. Like, have a playlist on your on whatever you're using to listen to, and just really enjoy the present moment, and tune into your body. Feel how good it feels that you're like moving your body in a particular way, or how it feels just to breathe deeply. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that's happening inside of us that we also don't tune into. Even when we're eating,
High-Tech Concrete Cutting is a leading provider for all concrete scanning, x-ray, cutting, and coring throughout Ontario. They pride themselves in providing highest quality service in a safe manner, on time, and on budget. With the background, knowledge, and support of more than 30 years' experience from the owner Dan St. Ange, there is no job that they cannot quote or complete. Their fleet is equipped with top-of-the-line trucks and equipment, which eliminates any uncertainty for downtime and allows our highly skilled crews to complete your project without delays. Choose High-Tech Concrete Cutting for your next project and see the difference when dealing with the industry leaders. Find them at www.hightechcutting.ca and on Instagram at High-Tech Concrete Cutting.
Eating is such a pleasure.
It is, 100% it is. I haven't even brought up, and I'm trying to figure out how I bring this up, because you've got a whole generation, and I'll speak for men, that are in their 50s or older, that don't understand how a certain word or a certain action is expressed to a younger person, and they're offended by it. In today's society, anything could be considered a phobia or a racial slur, and it's just they go down this path. It's like, I don't get it, I don't understand it, I can't communicate, and whenever I do say something, I'm offending one person out of the 8 billion that are on this planet, and then I'm being attacked for that. So then you're on guard now, trying to just be normal and speak to somebody. That's all you're trying to do. But you're getting a whole generation of men in their 50s and 60s and 70s that don't care or understand pronouns, is where I'm trying to go with, right? And I'm one of them. I don't care about that. I want to know what your name is, and I'll address you as your name. That's me. That's how I am. But you're getting a lot of people that are in construction that don't know and don't understand, and eventually don't care too, because they just don't see any value with it. Where you talked about masks, which makes a lot of sense, and a lot of that has to do with people want to portray other characters of themselves to society. But it doesn't mean that I have to acknowledge you as that character, and nor should I have to. And one of the things that I do like saying over and over is that just because it's your problem doesn't mean it has to be the world's problem. So you don't need to drop that onto me, and then I have to apologize over and over and over because I inferred an expression or something, right? No, the way you thought I said something, or the way it came across, doesn't mean that I was offending you, or I was considering being racist towards you or phobic or anything like that. It has nothing to do with it. Maybe I just don't like you as a person, and I don't want to be around you as a person. So you get a lot of uphill battles from this older generation trying to figure out, I don't want to fight those battles, so then I'm going to go back to being alone, and I'll try to find my little happy moments where I can stay content, because apparently if I just say hello, I upset somebody, right? How do we navigate through that?
So I think it's about finding your tribe, right? And finding the safe spaces where you can feel free to speak authentic for yourself. And I know I have found those spaces, right? That where I can be free to express particular, ideas and beliefs. And I think you're able to kind of figure out through like certain things that are exchanged in the conversation, who's feeling the same way as you are. Like, let's say just with the vax, right? It was like, if you said particular things, you could kind of get a sense whether they were for or against, right?
It was easy.
So even about some of the other things that are going on in society these days is that, there are those safe spaces where you can be more yourself and be able to express your true thoughts and opinions about how you feel about these issues. And then I think when we're not in those spaces is just to treat people as you would want to be treated, right? So if they're not extending that to you, that has nothing to do with you. And I know that a lot of some of the behavior that I see that I'm just going to say is kind of negative, let's say, has nothing to do with me, is that hurt people. Yeah. So I know that they must be going through something, and that's why they're going around, behaving and saying the things that they're saying, because they're just not happy within themselves. And that's often the case. People are not happy within themselves. Statistically, 1 in 5 Canadians will be diagnosed with a mental illness every year. And by the time the age of 40, it's 1 in 2.
Half the population?
At 40. So that's why when I said that milestone, and this is right from the CAMH website that I...
So over 20 million people.
Are you talking, is that...
No, sorry, 1 in 2 you were saying.
Yeah, Canadians. That's a Canadian
By
stat.
when? Sorry, that was by
By
what?
40. By
the time they turn 40.
Mm-hmm. So I know that's huge. So most people are not happy. They're not in a good place.
So the question becomes, are we really broadening the term of mental health issues? Like I go back to the older generation of tradespeople. It's like almost anything could be a mental health now. And it's not, in my opinion. I mean, there are some serious mental health issues, serious ones, right? But then you not wanting to get to work or wanting to not wake up and go to work or whatever like that, that's not a mental health issue, right? That's just like, that's something that's going on in your life and you have to figure it out. Like we came from a generation that we figured it out. We, you know, if someone offended us and we were upset and they said something negative about us, we confronted it. You know what I mean? It was never expressed online behind a keyboard. It was said to your face, and then guess what? We dealt with it at that moment. And that's how it was. But I guess this generation is just hanging on to it and just like waiting for other opportunities to unleash it.
I think people don't have the tools. They don't have the tools. That things happen to us every day that pull us away from the happiness that we are, and people don't have the tools to deal with it. And so then they continue to just spiral like down and down and down, and they find themselves in a bad place, that we're either flourishing in our life or we're languishing in our life. It's like two different sides of the spectrum. We have a very small percentage of the population. So in my TEDx talk, that's now out on YouTube, the happiest 30% of the population, so it's 30% is very happy, 20% is very unhappy. So the rest is just like kind of floating in between.
They're in or they're out. They could be either or.
Right.
But my question to you is, how many of the ones that present themselves because they use social media for this as pure happiness and life is going perfect and everything's wonderful is really happy?
Right. So never is life always perfect. It's not perfect.
It's never.
No, but it's about knowing how to navigate it. Again, what are those tools? And we are not taught these tools. That's why working with someone like me, like a life coach, where, you know, with their certain like I have 2 different programs. One program deals with the blocks, and that program gives people tools in just 6 weeks. Every week they learn a different tool that can help them to work through whatever issue may have happened, whether it's like something happened with your colleague or your spouse or whatever. There's one of those 6 tools is going to be able to help you to maybe forgive, to let go, to heal, to be able to process what's happened, and then get back to that place. It's called mental freedom, and giving yourself the mental freedom that you need to feel good again. So whatever happens outside of ourselves, we cannot control it. We cannot control anything outside of ourselves, only our response to it. And so that's why having these practical tools that you can use and integrate to be able, as I said, not to hold it and bottle it down and stuff and tuck and think, oh, it's fine, or like losing yourself in alcohol and recreational drugs and gambling and shopping and food and all the wide range of addictions that we have, sex, lots of different areas that people just numb out all the things that they're going through instead of actually being able to process and get yourself back to like a place of peace. And that's why I think it is where it is, that the stat is like at that high. I think there's a lot of diagnoses and labels happening, but I think also people don't have the tools.
I call it the monk stage. It's just like you basically shut out from what the everyday that you're so used to being a part of, and you just focus on yourself, right? So you just try to, it's difficult in today's day because there's so much going on, right? And so I just try to clear my head. And the first thing I try to do is get rid of media out of my, like news media out of my head. unfortunately with this show and just with connectivity and reaching out to people like yourselves, I still have to have a branch that's connected to social media, a digital platform. I have to, but I've said it several times on this show. I'm looking forward to that moment where I bow out and I get out for good, and everyone could wonder whatever happened to Manny after that. But I'm going to do that when I'm going to want full happiness in my life, where I'm not going to be worried about it. I'm getting close to the point where I don't, like right now, if someone says anything negative about me, I have no reaction whatsoever. It's just like, I go back to, it's your problem. It's not the world's problem. So you can dislike me, say something bad about me, whatever. It will not change my opinion about where I'm headed. And I have to do it that way because I don't have the time to deal with that kind of crap, right? That to me is BS. But it's a challenging plane because I'm seeing so many people not happy. Whether with this show has been great, where you'll get lots of unfortunately, it's always been men, separations, relationships, failures, hard times with their marriages, hard times with their kids, severing of assets. Like it's just been a bombardment of just like negativity, and you're getting people DM and texting me and communicating and want to talk. And I don't have the answers, but they want to just reach out to somebody that they probably have connected because of the show, which is great, but I don't have the answers. And I'm going through my own BS as well too. So it's like, you're right. We don't have the tools, but I try to at times revert back to those kid moments, like the children, what I really enjoyed doing, what was fun and what would made me laugh and all this other stuff. And you try to recreate them, but it becomes honestly, it becomes very, very difficult to try to recreate them as an older individual, like because now it's coming across weird for people to go like this. Yeah, and you did what? I don't understand that. Like I have a Santa bag full of practical jokes that I can try on people, but I think a lot of people are just going to start to look at me like, oh, what's wrong with you? Like there's something seriously wrong with you. Why do you want to do this? I go, because it would make me laugh. Simple as that. It will truly make me laugh. And most people, I agree with you, when you get older, people, the same way that we stop sprinting in our late 20s, we stop really laughing, like gut wrenching, hurting, I'm crying eyes, laughing. I don't know many people that do that, including myself, right? Like I can't even remember the last time that I did that as an individual, where it's like you just, like there was just humor. For what, I don't even know what the joke was or what the situation was. It probably wasn't even a joke. It was just a scenario, and it just made you laugh, whether that was with a friend or a family member or your pet or your children, whatever. It made you laugh, and that made you happy, and then it went away. That's the problem. It went away, and then society came back in and stomped on top of that, right? That's what the majority of us are dealing with. It's challenging.
And because things are heavy, right? So even if funny things were to happen, it's almost like you're less inclined to laugh about it because you have like a ton of bricks on your shoulder. And if just one gets removed because a little funny incident happens, it doesn't seem to make a huge difference. So it's like, what are those blocks that are preventing you even from seeing some of those happy moments that are happening around you? But it's like you have the blinders on because you're so consumed with your problems and the stuff that you're dealing with that it's hard to see the light in a sense. And so let's look at it like pebbles in a shoe. If you're walking through life and it's uncomfortable because there's so many pebbles in your shoe, is that you need to like slowly remove the pebbles in there so that you can walk more comfortably. And it's again investing time. So it's commitment and dedication and saying, I want to be committed to changing my life. I can't continue living the way that I'm living. And it is like, okay, let's look at what those pebbles are, and just dealing with one, not all of them at a time, one. Whatever that could be, that's problematic. And then once that one's been dealt with, what's the next one that's in your shoe? But you have to be committed. It's not like there is no magic pill. There is no like one thing fits like.
It's not an overnight thing.
No, it's not. And to think this has been over 10 years that I've been working on. Do I have to work on it every day? Yeah, I do. Yeah. We all do. But because that's just what life on earth is about. But it's like, but I know that when I put in the work, I feel better. And my life gets better when I put in the work. So just as you're putting in the work to get the more money, whatever you're putting the work into, and for is that how much work can you put into feeling better about yourself in your life and dealing with those little pebbles.
Hey, architects and builders, do you want to stand out from the competition? Fraser Wood Siding has your back. Fraser Wood Siding is a leader in pre-finished wood siding. They manufacture beautiful pre-finished wood siding using only the highest quality PEFC certified Canadian softwood. Fraser Wood Siding is available in 17 profiles and unlimited colors. Fraser Wood Siding is available in 17 profiles and unlimited colors. Supplied by the global leader in paints, Sherwin-Williams. Whether your design taste is classic, contemporary, conservative, or bold, they've got you covered. They'll gladly match the color of any paint manufacturer and send a sample on an actual piece of Fraser Wood Siding in just a few days. Visit their website at www.fraserwoodsiding.com and reach out about your upcoming projects to benefit from their industry-leading lead times. Fraser Wood Siding, get inspired. What's the youngest person that you worked with, and what's the oldest person that you ever worked with? Like, what's the range there?
Usually my clients are around 40.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because it's, again, I feel like I connect with people that are kind of going, like when I share my story and if I meet with people to see, like, we have these discovery calls to just say, am I someone that resonates with you? And, here's a little bit about me. And, people, there are coaches that focus on a variety of different things. I feel sometimes like happiness is this kind of a bit of a broad term, is that, oh yeah, everybody wants to be happy. As I said, at the base of everything we do, we just want to be happy. But people don't know about, again, what are those tools that can actually improve your life, in the sense that happiness, when we are happy, we have more success. When we're happy, our relationships are better. When we're happy, so in the end, it's not like, oh, I want all the success and then I'll be happy. No, we find the success because we're happy, and we find the perfect relationships because we're happy. And so it always comes back to you and where you're at and what you're feeling. And then the outside world just seems to line up, and there's a flow that you're just like, wow, that's all I needed to do was like to work on myself. My daughter shared this very cute analogy yesterday about the butterflies, that people are always looking at the butterflies in other people's garden and like, oh, I want those butterflies over there. Well, it's like, how about you work on your garden and making your flowers and everything look really good, and then the butterflies just are like, whoa, what's going on over there? And then they just naturally fly over to your garden because you're working and tending to yourself. And then all of a sudden the right relationships start to come in, and the right friends start to come in, and the ones that aren't serving you do tend to fall off. It's true, but it's because you're not in that place anymore. And there's no commonality, right? It's like misery likes company. But if you're not miserable anymore, a lot of those friends are not going to want to hang out with you. Yeah. And that's okay, because then you're going to be at a different level where you're then going to meet people that are where you're at. And you're going to start bringing in more of the things you do want in your life.
I'd like to actually get your opinion on, you have a successful relationship or marriage or partnership with somebody, and you spend an entire lifetime with them. And life is not the Notebook. Both people do not die at the exact same moment and then drift off. One is always going before the other. And I've always thought the lucky ones go first, because it's the harder for the one that stays behind still living. And how do you still find happiness in those remaining days, months, whatever it is, knowing that your significant other is no longer there, and maybe the children are not necessarily there as often? How, as an older person, how would you handle that and try to recapture happiness in your life and your end of life?
I think it's definitely a tougher stage for a variety of different reasons. Statistically, the hardest time when we lose someone is those first 6 months. And it's up to a year. So for those really long relationships that we've had with somebody, it's a year where we're not exactly where we were before we lost them. So you know that you're eventually going to be like out of the weeds, right? You're not always going to feel, as sad and heartbroken and as lonely as you might feel initially, that it's up to a year. After that, things can start looking up for you. And I think it's, again, connecting with your happiness toolkit and those things that that bring you joy. And maybe it is hanging out with the friends that are still around that you can hang out with. Finding that social connection is really huge, especially at that age group. That's why, these long-term care facilities, depending on the ones that they're in, but it does really provide that social part that is important, because if you're alone, if you have a caregiver, at least there's somebody that's coming into the home that can kind of help you with that. But it's challenging because now your body isn't necessarily on your side, right? Your eyesight's going, so you can't read. Your fingers are going, so you can't, knit or paint or draw or whatever it is, or cook or whatever it is that you wanted to do before. So it's definitely a harder time, I would say. And so maybe it's getting outside.
I agree with you on all those things. It makes a lot of sense, right? You just got to, because you don't know when it's your time, so to speak. And it could be a long time. It could be a short time. You just don't know. So I guess just make the best of it and try to find what you can do that will just put a smirk on your face. And then if that's a walk outside, if that's just dad jokes or like whatever, something simple or whatever, as long as it's making you happy, just embrace those things.
And maybe it is the time. We're not there yet, you and I, right? So it always feels like it's so hard to speak to a time that we haven't yet experienced because we don't know, even though we can try to be, we're sympathetic, but we're not.
We see it in our elders. We see it in our parents. We see it in what they're going through, and it's just inevitable that that's where we're going to be at one point in our life. We're going to be there, right?
But I think we can learn through how they're showing up in their life, right? To say, do you want to be grumpy all the time? Do you want to be the complainer that your kids don't want to go and see you because when you go there, that's all that you're doing, right? Like nobody wants to be around that. I have some people are like, I should go and see my father more, but every time I go there, he's just whining and complaining all the time, right? So to say, do I want to be like that one day? And now I find like my father is more stubborn than ever.
Because he has the right to be.
And does he have the right to be stubborn? Well, he was always stubborn. He was always stubborn.
But now that he's older, he has the right to just be that way.
And so that's why I was like, okay, do I, right? So I'm like, do I want to be like that? Right? So our outside world is always being able to show us how we want to show up, right? It's giving us choices to say, do I like that or I don't? It's one or the other. And happiness is like that. Happiness is the compass. Happiness shows us when we're on path, when we're doing the right thing, when we're doing what we're supposed to do. And when we're not feeling happy, then we're off path and we're misaligned. And so the world is doing that. It's like this, we live in a world of duality. So it's either something presents itself, you like it or you don't. And other people's behavior and other things are, again, happening outside of ourselves that are outside of our control, but I can only control my response to it. So I can control how I respond to my father, which is often, I don't speak with him all that much now because he's doing, living his best life, whatever that is for him. And I need to do the same thing for myself, because that's how I'm choosing. But to know when you choose to show up, you're making a choice, and there could be consequences with that choice, but you have to be okay with it.
What about the individuals that honestly believe the rubbish about, I'll just stay alone and I'll be a lot happier anyway? Which is not true.
No.
Because human beings, they require the connectivity. They require somebody else to speak to. And you can try to fill that with a pet, something. It's not the same as speaking to another human being. But you hear a lot of people, just like, I'll just stay alone and I'll be happy. I'll be plenty happy.
No, but we know statistically that's not true, that we need that component. So in essence, they're making that choice for themselves. Is it the right choice? Statistically, it's not the right choice, but again, that's outside of our control, and we can just choose to say, how do I want to show up for myself in my life when I reach that point? Or
I don't want to look at it from us looking at somebody else. I want to look at it from us being that person, saying that I'm just going to stay alone and I'll be happy, right? But you're lying to yourself is what you're doing. Just because it's been difficult up until this moment and things haven't worked out for you, whether it's failed relationships or failed partnerships or failed family member, whatever, all that stuff, you just ultimately add it up and just go, you know what, it equals me being alone and I'll be happy that way. But we know that that's BS, right? So it's like, how do we not necessarily ask that person or have that person listen to what we want to tell them, saying that you're kidding yourself. You're not going to be a happy person. And I honestly believe you'll probably want to just expire a lot sooner because you will not have that connectivity.
And that's why I think our mindset plays a huge role, right? And I know because I told myself lots of different lies. I told myself when I was in my low point that nobody cared about me, nobody loved me. If I died, it wouldn't matter to anybody. And you just replay these things on repeat. As I said, 60 to 70,000 thoughts. 80% of those thoughts are negative, which means most people are walking around with the negativity bias already. So and our mind wants to do that. And it's a survival mechanism. It does that to protect us, to say, no, you don't want to do that because last time it didn't work out for you. No, you don't want to do that because last time you got hurt. No, you don't want to do that. So let's say, in the dating scene, no, you don't want to do that. You got rejected. No. So it's like, it's trying to keep us safe, but what it's really doing is keeping us limited and not living the happy life that we came here to live. So recognizing how our brain operates, that it's going to do that, and to say, I need to now change my thoughts by thinking the opposite, right? So when my mind starts to go in the negative direction, in a sabotaging one or criticizing one or limiting one, or all the things that I said to myself also on repeat, I was never pretty enough, never smart enough, never skinny enough, never athletic enough, never enough of lots of different things. Every time I ate something, every time I tried something on, every time I looked in the mirror, every time I tried to do a sport, was all this negative thoughts about ourselves. And so when we recognize, it's only until we recognize those thoughts and say, I'm not, whether it's like, I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I'm not, whatever that could be. We have lots of negative thoughts. So that, nobody really likes me. It's fine. I'll just be by myself. Who cares about everyone? This is us. Like, this is our what our mind is doing to us, to say that's not the truth. And it was, again, only until I started participating in all these practices that were bringing, shining a light on these thoughts, to say, wow, that's that. And they started opening me up to begin talking to people, people close to me, about what I was going through and how I was feeling. And then recognizing that it wasn't true what I was saying to myself, that there were people that loved me. There were people that wanted to help me. There were people that wanted to listen to me. And so, and in talking with other people, I was able to shine a light to some of those lies that I was telling myself. But this is what your mind does, can perpetuate lies and untruths that are keeping you stuck and keeping you miserable and keeping you alone. And so, and it's that being able to change it, and it's work again, because your mind as a default goes to, you're a loser, you're a failure, you're a cheater, you're a whatever it is that maybe is keeping you feeling small and keeping you feeling bad about yourself. All of that to say, okay, that happened in the past, and At any moment, we are doing the best that we can with the knowledge that we have at that moment. So now, yeah, it is like 20, what is it? Look, it's 2020 or something. Hindsight is 2020, right? Yeah, it's easy for you now to look back and say, wow, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done. But the truth was, at that time, you did the best that you could under the circumstances with the knowledge that you had. Now, with the knowledge that you have today, you can look back and say, well, that wasn't the best approach, or that wasn't the greatest thing that I did. But how can you change and be different moving forward? And life is always showing us more about ourselves. It's constant learning, but it's a beautiful process when you look at how that's what it's providing you, with an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself every single day, with every connection that you have, every moment that you share with somebody, every single action you do with your hands. It's providing you an opportunity to learn more about yourself. And it's such a beautiful journey when you look at that and you're not, hard on yourself for the things that didn't work out, but realizing that you're still here. You picked yourself up off the ground. You did this, and now you're going to try to be better than you were. Not better than someone else, better than who you were before.
Introducing the new Air-Cooled 26 RCA, the quietest, most powerful, and most durable generator with 109 amps max power on liquid propane. Equipped with the first-to-market low-oil shutoff switch, it's the quietest 26 kilowatt on the market with a 56 dB at exercise. The 89% larger ceramic fiberglass insulated muffler and acoustic foam insulated inlet duct deliver the best sound quality on the market at exercise. Its larger muffler reduces back pressure by 62%, eliminating restrictions in exhaust to optimize pressures for peak performance. Its CH1006 engine with 20% higher compression ratio and variable ignition timing optimized by fuel delivers the most power in its class. It's also equipped with advanced engine tuning with an air cleaner assembly relocated directly over the carburetor, which optimizes airflow to deliver enhanced performance. When it comes to reliability, nothing beats a Kohler home generator. Get the facts and find your generator at Effect Electric Limited on IG. How much is the weight of regret on all of us? Because as you get older, you all of a sudden start that negativity grocery list that you have in your head that you're constantly thinking about starts to create another negative grocery list of things that you never accomplished. So you start looking at, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. My life would have been better. You just make all these assumptions at that point. We don't know. We don't know if your life could have been better. Your life could have been worse. We don't know for a fact. But the thing is, if you didn't accomplish certain things, first of all, what's stopping you to accomplish them? Like it depends on what that thing is. I'm not talking about how if you want to be a professional athlete, that's a different game if you're a certain age or what have you, right? But if there's certain things that you wanted to accomplish, whether it's traveling or writing or music or anything like that, I guess you speak to a lot of people and that weight is pretty heavy on these individuals, and that's contributing to not being happy.
And that's where some of that healing work is going to come into play, right? And a lot of it, oftentimes it has to do with forgiveness, forgiving ourselves.
Yourself, yeah.
And even though we've been done wrong and people did whatever they did, is that we may have responded in whatever way that we did. And now we might be feeling some guilt and shame and regret around that. Is that, again, understanding that you did the best that you could at the time. And because that's what we're always doing. And there are some forgiveness activities and practices that we can do to help us to move past that. Forgiveness is even when we're forgiving the other person. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Yeah. So when we're holding on to resentment and anger and frustration about something that happened, that person's off living their life, having a great time. And here you are just like, oh, they did me wrong. So it's like, it's important for us to move past and forgive them for, whatever they did to us. And so that we can release ourselves and move on. And then also extending that same compassion and love to ourselves to say, I did the best that I could. Could I take it back? If I would, but I can't, right? So all I have to do is forgive myself for where I was, know that I was like in a bad place, and I did the best that I could. But am I changing myself and changing, who I want to be and how I want to show up because of what I learned through that opportunity? It's all about the learning. That if you don't learn from your mistakes and be different, what is the point? Like even with my kids, I'm like, okay, you're going to do things I'm not going to like. But if it doesn't work out for you, like when you drink too much, it doesn't work out for you, please tell me you learned from that you realize that maybe you didn't eat enough food or maybe you didn't drink enough water. And that's why. And maybe you just drank too much alcohol or what kind of alcohol you drank, right? Like this is like that kind of trial and error that you figure out to say, okay, I'm okay with 3 drinks because if I go past that, it's not going to be any good. Or I have to make sure that I eat something before I drink, right? So even the bad moments of our life, it's what did it show you about yourself? And if you didn't like it, how can you change and be different going forward? All you can do.
Why did you get down this whole? Because you were seeing it in yourself, right? That you needed to first, I guess, fix yourself, but then you started realizing that you were connecting with other people as well too as a result.
Thank you. So by profession, I'm an educator. So I've been teaching my entire life.
Okay.
I only do that twice a week now. And I'm an educational technologies consultant. So I work with students that have special needs and they've been given technology and I help them learn particular tools on there that can help them to be more successful with like reading and writing, things like that. Yeah. So I only do that twice a week. So I've been teaching my whole life. And I've been on my happiness journey a little over 10 years now. So about the halfway point is when I started to feel better about myself with all of the things that I was doing. And I thought, wow, like I need to share this with other people, that if there are other people who are also like feeling the same way that I was, that we're all led astray. This is what is so important for us to recognize, that the misconceptions about where happiness is found leads us away from the truth. The truth is it's there within us. We're just in a different place. And it's like when we start to connect with it again, it's like the veil comes off and it's like, wow, it was here all along and I just didn't know. No, we don't know because again, we're programmed and conditioned to think that it's in all of these things. And so at that point is where I thought, okay, if I could help other people then, and not everybody chooses to do that, right? So when these things happen to us, oh my goodness, this is such a beautiful way of looking at it. It's about finding the glow. And the glow is looking for these 4 things. So the G is the gifts that the situation was able to provide you with. What are those gifts that came from the heartache, the pain, the disappointment, even though it may be hard and what you had to go through or what you're going through, but what are the gifts that are coming out of it? The L is the learning. What are the things that you've learned about yourself or about other people? Yeah. Because when we allow other people to show up as their true and authentic self, then we're able to look at them and decide, are those people that we really want in our life, right? So not only learning about ourselves, but learning about the other people that we're with. The O is the opportunities. What opportunities may come out of the situation that just happened? So the opportunity for me was that I wanted to be able to help other people. And now I'm on a mission to help make the world a happier place by sharing the steps that we can take it through whatever mediums I can. So like through my TEDx talks, my 2 shows, my books, my writing. So I write for various national and international magazines, speak on other people's shows like I'm doing with you, really trying to give people the tools that they can take to better themselves and to live happier lives. So the O is the opportunities. Not everybody, there might not be an opportunity for you and you may not choose to take it, right? To say now that you're in a better place, maybe that works for you, but maybe you also feel like you may want to help other people. Like, I don't know what some of your motivation is for having this show, right? That there could have been this is an opportunity that maybe presented itself or maybe that you decided to take
to
be able to
a lot of money. That's all it's about. No.
No.
It's just to connect and leave a thumbprint of what my thoughts are on this industry. That's what it's really all about, right? So, and I've shared with a lot of people saying, even when I'm done this show, the show will still always be out there. So there's probably individuals that haven't even been born or still teenagers, kids that are considering getting into the industry, bless you, considering getting into the industry, that will discover this show at that point. And the conversations will still be relevant because guess what? We are all human beings. Right. So this will make sense to them then. It's making sense to them now. So that's why I'm doing the show. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that kind of ties into the W. So the W is the wisdom. So what wisdom have you gained through the experience? And you've gained lots of wisdom through like your interviews, through your own life experiences. And as you said, that wisdom is now, on the internet and will exist for, or who knows?
And it will help somebody that you may not even ever meet at some point, but it will, words that you've shared, words that I've shared, and every other guest that's been on the show, it will help the people. As simple as that. I know that it's helping people, and it's important to continue doing it.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like the glow.
Yeah, yeah. And that is where we have to look back to say, if we are struggling with like moving forward, is like, okay, let's take a look. What is the glow? What are those 4 things that maybe we can at least pull out from the situation, although it was like, dark and miserable, but there is often one of those 4 things that you can pull from it.
But negatively, as human beings, we just always revert back to the negative that's going on in our lives.
Yes.
All the pressures that are going on. And we keep forgetting that we're in a lot better of a situation than a lot of other people on this planet. Like we do still have good things going on. A lot of people don't realize the little things. And it's that whole cliche about how at some point you wish for what you currently have right now, and you have it, but you're not acknowledging that you have that. You're just acknowledging what you don't have. And maybe you don't need what you don't have right now. Maybe what you need is just a lot more happiness in your life.
Thank you so much for that, because that ties into how important gratitude is. That it is about the small things. It is about, like, in the morning, the cup of coffee that I just love. Like I literally can't wait to get into the kitchen and brew my cup of coffee. Like when I go to sleep at night, I'm like, oh, tomorrow morning I get to have my coffee.
And it's the smallest thing ever.
Oh my God. But then it's like your car works. You have gas. My computer works. My phone works. I have running water. I have
You're walking
heat.
to your vehicle.
Yes. There's so many things that are going right, but our mind wants to pick out what's not. And looking outside into the world, you're not going to find it because it's not in the world. The world seems to be falling apart in a whole bunch of different ways. So just because that's happening outside yourself doesn't mean that you need to be like that, right? That you have only control over your own immediate experience. So how do you want your day to unfold for you today? Not based on how other people are going to like dump their shit on you, is that how do you want to show up today? And I think when we've been doing jobs, this is another point that I wanted to share today, is that when we've been doing something for a very long time. So I've been teaching 26 years. If you own your own business, now you're like in it and you've been doing it so how do you find like that day-to-day joy when you've been doing it over and over and again? And it's about, again, coming back to that why. Why are you doing this job? And what parts of the job do you like? Whether it's like, maybe it is connecting with like your customers on the phone. Maybe it is like certain parts of like the day-to-day tasks that you're doing that and maybe saying, okay, I'm not going to do it so sloppily today. I'm going to try to put a little more effort into doing it and really doing it with pride today. Or I'm going to try to uplift the people that I'm working with today. So like it is almost like setting an intention to say, okay, today I'm going to focus on this. And it's trying to find like that little spark that you can kind of bring to what you're doing today, instead of just like going into work and just like, oh, yes. And many of us are going through life on autopilot. It's get up, eat, or have a coffee, go to work, come home, eat, sleep, repeat. And we're on autopilot. That you get to work and you're like, how the heck did I get here? Because we're like zoned out. And like, so, and us on our phones, it's like zoned out. Like lots of people are zoned out to their life. I'm like, and then on top of it, they're taking in substances that make them even more zoned out, right? Recreational drugs, lots of alcohol, like all these other things.
Void filling, right? They think that will be better.
And numbing their life out.
I try to occasionally, and I used to do it a lot more when I was younger, just people watch. Go to a certain spot, grab a park bench, sit there and just watch. But the unfortunate thing is that it puts me in a more negative mindset because I look at people and nobody's smiling anymore. Nobody's walking around with a grin on their face. Nobody's like, everybody's fixated on their phone. Everybody's fixated on, I guess, all the problems that are in their life instead of what little they do have. Doesn't matter how little. But so then you start looking at people and they're not generally happy. And you're assuming. But
right.
By the expressions I see on their face, because I'm comparing it to what it was like 30 years ago. I have a reference to look at certain things because I used to do it then and I still do it today. And I'm like, people are not the same.
It feels like that. Statistically, it's showing that it's not. That people think that the world is going downhill and people are less kind and less helpful. But statistically, it's not true. The world, there's still good things happening in the world. Although, again, the news seems to make it look like it's all going downhill. But there are still good people doing good things every day. Unfortunately, they just don't get highlighted on the news. But it's still happening. And what I would say is that when you are just like, let's say, sitting on a park bench, having a coffee, whatever, is to tune your attention to things that maybe you never noticed before. Like my walks in nature during the pandemic was like, I've been living in this community over 20 years, and I'm like, how come I never noticed these flowers? Why do these flowers look so freaking colorful and so beautiful? And it's like my backyard never looked as beautiful as it did. That I thought, oh no, I had to sit on like some patio at some restaurant to enjoy myself. And it was like, no, actually my backyard is not all that. And it's not anything like to brag about, but I was like, oh, it's actually quite nice. The grass is quite green, and the sun feels so good on my skin, and the breeze and the sounds of the birds and the squirrels that are always like playing tag with each other in the backyard. It's like hilarious to watch. So sometimes it's like just turning your attention to notice things that you've never noticed before.
Good point.
And there's all this gratitude for all these things. Like when I see like certain birds that I never noticed before, I was like, wow, where did those come from? And it's the more, I'm really telling you, the more you do the work, all of a sudden it's like there's a magic to this world that we're not seeing. But when we remove those pebbles and we go more into the direction of our joy, we allow happiness to guide us, as I said, as that compass. There is magic happening. There is really a beautiful world here, but we have to look for it. We have to find it, instead of the focus is, it'll bring us to the negative because of that bias, as I said. It is looking for the 20% and then training yourself to be in that 20%, because again, the world wants to pull you with every interaction. As you said, everyone's looking miserable. That doesn't mean that's how you need to be, right? I want to be part of the 20%. I want to be part of the 30% of the very happiest people in the population, and doing the things that happy people do.
We're getting close to wrapping it up, but I'm just curious on which countries are actually happier than others.
So
I don't think Canada's on the list, is it?
It's 11 actually.
11.
I know.
What's number one?
Yeah, so Israel was one of those happy countries. Finland, I think, is the most happy. Denmark, also, I think it's second. And I can't think of some of the other ones. I know like the ones at the top. Which
countries are the least happiest?
I think it was, I feel like saying Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
It's because I just looked at this like 2 weeks ago. It's like a happiness index. And I can't think of the other ones at the bottom. But I was just so focused on which ones are the most happy. Yeah, Finland.
So I mean, what's making Finland happy? Well, they're outdoors more often. They're connecting with nature more often. They're living simpler lives. I could see that.
I think the government over there it operates differently. Maybe they're not all of their earnings are going to taxes.
Well, there's an index that you need. You need an index of happiness and an index of overreach on government, and you could probably see the connection.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying Canada is not on the list there.
Yeah, 11th somehow. We're at 11.
That's a little surprising. I think it needs to be revised. Did we cover everything, Teresa? This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But I mean, I know that you're like, how do you make time for everything that's going on because you're so busy?
I think, as I said, if the things that we do for work, so it's important for us to look at what are our responsibilities and ensuring that the things that bring us the most joy are the ones that are at the top. And it's not always possible because we have some things that we have to do, right? So then in those have to do situations, we're trying to find the why behind them. And as I said, trying to find like new and novel ways of being able to like spice up what we're doing by focusing on the parts of it that, or the facets of it that do bring us still some joy. Whatever it is about your work, why you got into it in the first place, what is it? And trying to like maybe, focus on those elements. But the other things, making sure that the other things are all things that bring us joy. Because if all the things on your list is all making you miserable, that's not great. Then you're feeling stressed, you're overwhelmed. And then what happens is a lot of that upset, that emotional upset, then starts showing up in the body as dis-ease, right? So there's dis-ease in the sense that, there's like tightness, there's headaches, there's back pain, there's all these things.
That's all stemming from mental? Like
emotional. So emotional then gets trapped because it's energy. So that gets trapped in the body. And then when you don't look at it and you don't get it taken care of because we don't have time for this, I'm just going to take, an Advil, I don't have time then it starts becoming disease. So dis-ease is like the first kind of, signs that you need to go get this looked at. Whatever that is, right? Again, go and get your massage, go to the chiropractor. We have to do this for ourselves. No one's going to do it for us. You have to make time to say, okay, I need to go see someone for whatever, your tooth hurts, whatever it is, your body is speaking to you.
It tells you.
And your body is, I know this probably sounds kind of, out of place maybe to say, but your body is a temple. It helps you to do everything that you need it to do every single day. Your hands and your feet are like parts of our body that are so overworked because we're just doing things and we even take our hands and feet for granted of how much it helps us to do everything. And that when I go for my massage and she's working on my hands, because I spend so much time on the computer, and I'm just like, oh my God, our hands are just so underappreciated. We do so much with these, and our feet too, that bring us, and our legs and help us to do all the things. And so how can we love our physical body so it can help us to show up the way that we need it to? And if we're always putting ourselves on the back burner, then we're going to start to see some of that dis-ease and then the disease showing up, which is not what we want.
I've seen it. I actually seen it.
So that's what it's like, checking your list, reflecting back to your list when you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, you're not feeling happy. Okay, let me look at what's on my list. And sometimes I have to let certain things like go on the list and put it on the back burner because I don't have time for them, although there are things that I enjoy. And then when I do have time, then I reintegrate them. So again, tuning into how you're feeling. It's always about how you're feeling and then making what adjustments you need to.
Thank you. I got to do the 12 questions with you. But again, I want to let everybody know, www.TeresaGreco.ca. That's GRECO. And her email is StepstoTrueHappiness@gmail.com. You can find her on Facebook under Step to True Happiness. Also on Instagram, her own personal IG account under Teresa Greco, and then also Step to Happiness. And then on LinkedIn, you can reach out to her name. And on Twitter, it's the same thing with her name. And then she's got her YouTube channel, which is Teresa Greco _ Steps to Happiness. And then also on the Soulivity TV channel, you got your show Steps to Happiness there. And then you also have your show on the Happy Hour with Teresa Greco on Hopeful Radio, which is under Hopeful Radio hyphenated podcasts, and then also TikTok under Teresa _Greco. So a lot. You got a lot on you. You got a team. Are you doing everything? Are you doing everything?
Well, because I'm a technology consultant, I've had those platforms all from the very beginning. I know this is probably going to age me huge, but Twitter was 3 days old when I signed up for Twitter.
I have no idea when Twitter started.
Yeah. Oh, I was going through my master's at the time.
I joined Twitter in 2008, I think.
Maybe, but it was 3 days old. We had somebody come in to talk to us about it. It was like, oh, there's this new app out there, Twitter. Ha ha ha. We're all laughing. Like you have 100 characters to tweet out something. We're like, ha ha. And so same thing. LinkedIn was a week old when I signed up for LinkedIn. That's why on all the platforms, it's like I have my name, which is great.
Great.
Yeah. So it's just, and then I nurture them all now because, and I have tried to see if I could get maybe other people to be able to like kind of help me with it, but then it just doesn't feel
it's not you.
Yeah, and authentic, right? And then so nothing. I do what I can.
Good for you. What is your favorite construction word? I'm sure you might hear a few of these answers from your husband, I guess.
Mingya?
Well, profanity is totally fine, even in Greek, so it all works.
Italian.
Oh, sorry, Italian. Exactly, Italian. I haven't heard that one on the show in a while. What is your least favorite tool?
Least favorite? The tape measure.
Why?
I know we use it all the time, right? But it's not all that exciting, a tool. I mean, even the screwdriver, I'm not so excited. It is important.
What construction sound do you love?
One that comes from a saw.
Any saw?
A table saw, a chainsaw, yeah.
Anything.
The chainsaw is the most, I think, the one I like the most.
Favorite beverage?
Coffee.
Worst and best part of construction?
The worst and best? The worst is probably because it makes lots of mess. The best is that we get stuff done. Right? We get stuff built. I feel like, I once heard somebody say, oh, it's not nice. When you said all this stuff happening in society, whatever, oh, I hate men. And I'm like, really? I'm like, how do you think this world would function if we didn't have men doing all the amazing things that men do that women don't do, and in some cases we can't do. And I am so thankful for all the jobs that everybody does, but some of the jobs that men do, I'm so grateful. It's cold outside, it's messy, it's dirty, and you guys are out there doing it. So I so much appreciation.
I don't disagree with you.
You get shit done. I'm going to say it like that.
Favorite curse word, unless you already shared it. Unless it's a different one.
The F word.
The F word,
yeah.
Favorite vehicle, any mode of transportation?
My most favorite would be the Lamborghini.
Which one?
I don't have a preference. I just think
they're
all
Lamborghini.
I think they all look
color?
Amazing. I know, I've always toyed with that, which color, and I feel like it could be orange.
Someone just posted, I won't say who it is, but if she's been on the show, and she was like, Mercedes just introduced a G-Wagon in rose gold with diamonds on it.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right.
That's pretty girly.
What do you miss from your childhood?
All the time that I had to do like more of the fun things that we were talking about.
It's true. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt one day?
Well, I feel like I'm in this new phase. And so what I am working towards is becoming a motivational speaker. So I've started that, but I would like to start doing it on a greater scale. So I'm going to say that one.
It's already happening. No?
It is.
What profession would you not like to do?
Oh, garbage collection.
Last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at those pearly gates?
I love you so much, and I am so proud of you.
Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you so much.
It's been a blast having you on the show and sharing so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's helped a few people to get a better understanding of what is possibly missing in their lives, right? Which is right there. They just have to find it.
Yeah.
Right. is right there. So I really appreciate you taking the time and being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right, Angelina, we're out of here.